What is up, guys? Ncaa 31 here on the Wednesday after the first week of the college football season. A lot to unpack. That was an interesting week one season. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about after what went down on Twitter yesterday as in response to the Madden live stream featuring the esteemed Clint Oldenburg. I want to talk about the state of Madden 22. As you can see here, I have NCAA 14 in the backdrop here because I'm not playing Madden 22. And a large part of why I'm not playing Madden 22 is the state of the game and what went down yesterday that left all of the Madden community in social media, in the Twitter sphere, in a tizzy, up in arms, disappointed, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. As you guys know, I do coverage breakdowns and scheme breakdowns every single year. And if you are braving the Madden 22 streets, everything that I did for Madden 21 is still up as far as explaining match coverages, explaining the flaws and in quarters and palms, cover 6, cover 9, cover 3 match, as well as spot drop coverages as well. Every coverage in the game I break down against a wide variety of sets so you can see what works, what doesn't work, why it doesn't work, how it can be fixed, all that good stuff. All that still translates as far as that is concerned, but in many ways, the flaws are magnified, mainly because of the fact that the player movement, I get what they're trying to do as far as making it more realistic, as far as how players are moving around the field. But again, we're in a situation where we saw in the Madden 21 beta where the offense was moving at a different speed than the defense, even with the changes that they made, the defense just isn't reacting. And in next gen, they're reacting worse than they did in Madden 21. So the flaws that were there are still there, but the way the players are moving is compounding them and making them worse. So you have the same flaws that are even more extreme as well as new ones. It's it's just insane. It's insane. Players aren't reacting. Guys are giving up leverage. Zan posted a tweet, and I'll link it, where it was a play out of trips, and it was just a simple all crossers concept from the left side of the field to the other different levels by the three receivers, and the weak side safety who was playing in quarters against that formation and against that route combination. He's basically free to be a middle of the field safety. The strong side safety and the weak side safety just let the receiver just run right by him, and the corner who had no responsibility didn't react. So a ball that should have been thrown into triple coverage was thrown to what ended up being a wide open receiver. Stuff like that is still going on. And I said to myself, I what's the point? What's the point of playing? Let alone playing for money. God bless you, MCS guys. But the big disappointment was when Clint went on stream, and I like Clint a lot. I really do. As far as talking to him about the game and what they're trying to do. But there's a clear disconnect going on between what they feel is playing out and what we're experiencing and what we're seeing. Clint's argument on the live stream was basically along the lines of our metrics are showing us that the points per game are matching up with what you see in a standard NFL game, and guys are actually throwing more INTs than they would in an actual NFL game, meaning that the players that are playing the game are throwing more INTs than NFL quarterbacks. Which would stand to reason because you're taking those numbers from everyone ranging from Johnny Casual playing on arcade to the hardcore Madden player across all modes. But the thing that bothers me is the fact that they are really caught up, or they're too caught up in their metrics as far as the argument. Let's deal with the argument of the fact that points per game is matching, what they're seeing or what you would get in an NFL game. Well, the thing you got to take into consideration with that is that you're dealing with, on default, in an online game, 5-minute quarters. So what you have to take into consideration is if you're getting the same amount of points in a 5-minute per quarter game as you would in a full NFL game, the points per possession is astronomical. And I can guarantee you the yards per play is as well, because guys are open all over the field. I mean, I'm watching these guys on live streams, and there are 3 guys open damn near off the jump. Guys have to use it to cover the whip route or a crosser, and there's a corner breaking wide open underneath a streak, and it's a lot. And you also don't really have the greatest pass rush in the world. So you're seeing games that are routinely 28-28, at halftime. So that argument goes out the window as far as I'm concerned. But also just the attitude of the fact that instead of trying to fix what's fundamentally wrong in the game from a schematic standpoint, they're trying to get the results based off of yo-yoing the tuning around. So in order to get their numbers that mimic NFL numbers, they're just dialing a slider here, dialing a slider there. So it stands to reason that in order to get the metrics that you are trying to get, if you're not going to be doing it through fixing core flaws in the game, you're doing it through gameplay manipulation. You have to, right? Whether it's through sliders, whether it's through hijacking player ratings, hijacking user control, in order to get those target numbers that you're so dialed in on, in spite of the game's flaws, you have to yo-yo around with the game's mechanics. And I don't get how that's a acceptable position to take. Fix the game. Fix what's fundamentally wrong. All anyone asks for is for players to be doing their job in a logical way based off of what they've called, and then, according to their talent, they either make the play or they don't. If I set up my call to take up or take away what I know is coming, and my guy is not reacting to what is coming, and we're not talking about really exotic stuff here, we're just talking about all crossers and basic flood concepts, and I have my defense set up in a way, whether it's through the coaching adjustments or just plain play call or user control, to take that away, and the players are not responding, that's a problem, and that has to be addressed. But according to what we've heard, that does not seem to be the case. It's not going to happen. So if that's the case, I said I wasn't going to take a look at the game again until October. But if they're going to just take a hard stance with that, I might just sit out the whole damn cycle. I really might. Someone, or a couple of people, has said that Madden 21 on the PS4 plays like a more polished version of Madden 20, basically what Madden 20 should have been when it came out. Do I really want to do that? My PS4 fried, by the way. That's why I had to, replace it to begin with. I haven't replaced it yet. Do I do that? Maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't want to go back to PS4 when, decisions. But for now, I'm just going to play Ncaa 14, talk college football, and talk NFL, and play some Dynasty mode. And segueing from Madden to college football, as a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, despite the stress that they put on me, I feel pretty good about Notre Dame. I'm always going to start out with Notre Dame when I talk college football because that's just the way my world orbits. And when I look at Notre Dame, what I look for first and foremost is how athletic are we? Are we matching up athletically? Are we maintaining the gap that I believe that we've closed somewhat between the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Clemsons of the world, Ohio State, etc.? your standard annual top four programs. Are we closing that athletic gap year by year? And from the eyeball test, I think that we are. I think that they are. I was impressed by a couple of things. The tight end is really good. Mayer is really good. He split time last year, but still had 40 catches for over 400 yards as a true freshman. He had a couple of drops, but no one covered him all night. He was anytime they wanted to throw the football to him, they could have thrown it to him. He was just running free all game long. The receivers are better than I thought they would be. That I was concerned about. The receivers, they showed some burst. They showed ability to attack the football. They won their one-on-ones. I like the quarterback. I like the way Cohen played a lot. I didn't really know all that much about him. Let's be honest. Wisconsin doesn't really go out of their way to feature their quarterback the way they play offense. But from what I saw of Cohen, what I liked about him, I liked how he was basically the polar opposite of Ian Book and freaking me out after every drop back. One read and bolt Ian Book. He was decisive. He spread the ball around. He made good decisions. He was accurate. He's not the best athlete on the face of the earth, it looks like. So, that could be an issue. But if you have the pieces around him and you have a sturdy line, which Notre Dame has proven that they will usually have, and the parts around him are good or better to compensate for his lack of mobility, you can get away with that. I mean, it's not what I would prefer, obviously, but it looks like they're going to be more of what Brian Kelly used to be. I saw a lot of trips and I saw a lot of empty and just a lot of quick passing game and taking some vertical shots. They didn't really run the ball that well that game against Florida State. I think if you're a Florida State fan, you should be encouraged as well. I think they may be further along than Miami at this point, although it's kind of hard to, maybe too soon to say that based off of the fact that Miami opened with Alabama, and Alabama will make anybody look stupid. And that game really turned on a couple of plays. It turned on the failed fourth down conversion and the 94-yard touchdown. But Florida State, to me, they looked athletic. I loved their back. Their quarterback, little shaky. I think it's only a matter of time before Mackenzie Milton kind of, takes the reins there. The only caveat with that is that their line is not good. Their line is bad. I mean, every time Notre Dame rushed 4 or 5 guys, they were in the backfield almost instantaneously. Which brings me to the bone I have to pick with how they played that game, and that is on defense. As far as the way they approached defense, once they got up 18, they just decided to basically concede the run game, which, if you want to do that, great, but you also better cover people too. They just fell into a 5-man in the box, rush 3, drop 8 mode, but they were doing things like dropping their edge guys into space and just doing really, really questionable things, in my opinion. And he had come from Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, they ran a lot of aggressive stuff. Notre Dame, traditionally, the past few years, well, more than the past few years, even going back to, Bob Diaco. Forget about the Brian Van Gorder era, which was an atrocity. But Notre Dame typically plays bend but don't break, even when they kind of modernized their defensive approach under Mike Elko and went more towards that 4-2-5 match quarters type of scheme. They didn't really dial it up too heavy as far as blitzing is concerned. A lot of mainly 4-man rushes. But when he was at Cincy, they got after it pretty good. So I was kind of surprised to see him just back off for an entire half, especially when Milton came in. When Milton came in, I was like, cool, blitz him, please. Milton hasn't played football in over 2 years. He's on a surgically reconstructed leg. Get after him. Make him hurry the clock and make him have to be sudden. Nope. Kept on doing it. But, thankfully we were saved in overtime, and you just wash your hands of it, be happy for the W, and move on, and hope they correct that the following week. So that's my Fighting Irish and the state of them after week 1. Clemson and Georgia. Georgia fan, how do you feel about Kirby Smart? Really? You know Georgia's going to play good defense. They've been one of the best defense. They've been the best defensive team in the country statistically over the past couple of years, and he's straight out of that Saban, Belichick school. Obviously, you know what you're going to get on the defensive side of the ball. But man, 10-7 game, no one scored an offensive touchdown. And again, we know that you have two of the best defensive coaches in the business. Brett Venables on one side, Kirby Smart on the other. But that's rough. And Georgia has had that issue for a while now. They truly insist on playing like early 2010 Alabama on offense, which is fine. If you got Julio Jones out there to throw to, and you got Mark Ingram out there running it, and you got 4 first-round draft picks or 4 NFL draft picks on your offensive line, you can play that way. The only problem is you better have matchup advantages and big ones every single week if you're going to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be caught in games where you're playing offense in a phone booth. And I don't know whether it's the fact that Kirby doesn't want to play like that. He doesn't, or he doesn't want to open up. He doesn't allow his coordinators to open up. Maybe he feels like, hey, we got a great defense. We don't have to do much on offense. But I think that costs them. You can't tell me Georgia does not have athletes on offense. They had Justin Fields there, for crying out loud. They recruited him. I mean, Jesus Christ. They have players. They should be better offensively than they historically have been the past couple of years. It just doesn't make any sense. As far as Clemson goes, we might find out this year how good of a coach Dabo Swinney is. You expect drop off from Lawrence, obviously, but you don't expect 3 points. You just don't. So I'm curious to see how that's going to progress over the course of the season. Because their quarterback looked pretty good in spots last year when he had to play, but they just had nothing. Again, you're dealing with in an opener one of the better defensive minds in the country and great defensive personnel. So we probably need more sample size, but they're behind the 8 ball pretty early, and it bears watching because they lost a lot of talent, and not everybody is like Alabama who can just roll people off the assembly line, it seems, and not skip a beat. And from there, we can segue to Alabama. I mean, what can you say? I mean, not much to really say about that game. I mean, Bryce Young looks like he's been starting for 3 years. The receivers still look great. The defense still looks great. They just look like Alabama's like a computer program. You know, you know what you're going to spit out every single year, and they just keep on going. I mean, what can you say? It's just insane. It's crazy. I don't know how they consistently do this. Out-recruit people, out-coach people, beat people the hell up. It's strange. It's really remarkable. It really is. Not much you can really say. I think Miami is going to still be a top 15, a top 20 team, but Alabama, they make so many teams that are not, in that elite level, that top 3 to 4, look like they've never played football before, shouldn't be in the field with them. There's such a gap between the top 4 and everybody else that, it's just crazy to me. It's really, really odd. But hey, hats off to them. They just keep on doing it. Oklahoma and Tulane. A lot of you in the Twitter sphere, I shouldn't say a lot of you, but a couple of you I noticed were talking about or questioning, just how good Oklahoma is, how good Spencer Rattler is, and whether there's going to be another Oklahoma team that, won't be able to stop anybody. As far as Spencer Rattler, I don't love him. I mean, I agree with the sentiment that he's not Kyler Murray. He probably isn't as, good as Baker Mayfield, at least right now. But I think he can play. I think he's good enough. I think Oklahoma's always going to be a team that can score. But if you're struggling to stop Tulane and they put 35 points on you, even though you want to say some fluky stuff happened in that game, sure, but we've seen this type of thing from Oklahoma before where offensively they can put up points. Defensively, I tend to be a little bit soft. Whether that remains to be seen, time will tell. What's their schedule like? Let's take a look at Oklahoma's schedule. OSU, Oregon, good game. Minnesota lost their running back in that game. That's a damn shame. Let me look at that matchup real quick. That's this coming week in Columbus, Ohio. Has Oregon played a game yet? I know UCLA has played a couple of games. They're 2-0. I mean, the level of competition has not been great. Yeah, Oregon played last week. Who did Oregon play? I'm drawing a blank. They played Fresno. But yeah, they play Ohio State this week. But yeah, let's go back to Oklahoma. I want to see what their schedule is like. Oklahoma, where are you? Yeah, their schedule is soft, boy. Oh my God. Tulane, Western Carolina, Nebraska, which it's a good thing Scott Frost is worshipped in that goddamn state. Nebraska, man. It's sad. You know what Nebraska problem is that they have no recruiting pipeline anymore. They used to be able to recruit Texas, California, Florida, and even though they were not what they were in the 90s and even the early part of the 2000s, they could still recruit pretty well in the Big 12 to stay afloat. And then they fired Frank Solich because he had the nerve to go 9-3 for a couple of seasons, and they're now in this state. It's sad, but they had Nebraska, West Virginia, K-State, and then they have Texas. So, pretty soft until the Texas game. Is Texas for real? We don't know. I mean, it's hard to really trust Texas. But they have Texas and they have TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, Ohio, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. That's a dog shit schedule, let's be frank. They have Texas and Iowa State. The rest of the games they should, handle pretty easily, you would think. But you don't know. Maybe they have a team this year that can't stop anybody and they slip up. Very possible. And I was talking about UCLA. Again, the level of competition has been light. They're 2-0. UCLA, they played Hawaii and who else? Let me go to UCLA's schedule. Hawaii, oh yeah, they beat LSU 38-27. And they kind of starting to look Chip Kelly-ish on offense again as far as what they're running. And their schedule is a lot harder. They have Fresno State this week, then they have Stanford, then they have Arizona State, Arizona at Washington, which looks pretty down right now. Oregon, Utah, Colorado, USC, California. But how about LSU? How much goodwill does Mr. Orgeron have in the bank? Didn't have a good year last year. You get not thumped, but you lose to UCLA. Your schedule's pretty light until you hit Auburn. Well, you have McNeese State, I think, and Central Michigan. Then you have Mississippi State on the road, which is a losable game considering how you just lost to UCLA. So, again, lost a lot of talent. Not everyone is Bama. I can just plug guys in and just keep on going. So that bears watching. But overall, a real satisfying, I think, opener to the college football week. It was good to see fans in the stands again. It was good to see college football atmosphere. We had good games to watch. Penn State and Whiskey was a good game as well. Low-scoring game. You had two pretty low-scoring games this weekend between that game and the Clemson and Georgia game. You also have Iowa State. Both teams in the top 10 just early in the year. So, looking forward to that. That's a good matchup as always. Texas, Arkansas. I need to see more of Texas. I'm just not sold on Texas yet. It's hard to trust Texas. Utah, BYU is this week. The Holy War. That's always a fun game. And Utah's a solid program. BYU, who knows? BYU year to year, you don't know whether they're going to be, a 10-win type of team, or they're going to go 7-4. They're just kind of up and down like that. And as far as my Fighting Irish are concerned, they have, Toledo this week for their home opener. Should be pretty straightforward. Then they have Purdue. Then they have a pretty rough stretch. They have Wisconsin and Cincinnati at home. Then they have Va-Tech on the road. Then they have USC and North Carolina. So that stretch from September 25th and then the entire month of October is pretty darn brutal as of right now. And that will determine their season, obviously. Could they afford one slip up? Maybe. But not being a part of the conference, they probably can't afford one loss. They're going to have to likely run the table. But if that strength of schedule, as it looks right now, holds, they can probably afford a loss and still be in the mix. So that is that for a college football and Madden roundup for now. I'm going to post some Dynasty Mode vids and just have some fun playing some college football and talking college football. And then week 1 of the NFL opener we're on the eve of, which is amazing. So football's in full swing, baby.